Whatever you're going through, whether you think it's nonsense or not, Jesus makes sense out of it. For those of us who strive every week to go to small group, you getting off work, you tired. You like, man, I don't want to go here. It's people in this group that get on my nerves. I don't really feel like it right now. Why am I going? Jesus makes sense out of it. For those of you who are single, you trying to stay celibate. You feeling the temptation every day, and it feels like nonsense. I just want to give up. I just want to do what I want to do and whatever. It feels like nonsense, but Jesus makes sense out of it. For those of you who are husbands, struggling, trying to make ends meet for your family, you get home and kids don't even thank you. Wife come to your door with a list of stuff to do. Remember, Jesus can make sense out of the nonsense. And you can make sense out of the nonsense by seeing this present age as nonsense. See, we've been desensitized. We think this is supposed to be normal. It's like somebody just got killed. Click. People are dying. Click. People are starving in Africa. Click. This is not the way that it's supposed to be. Remember they used to give you those things in school when you were little? It's like, what's wrong with this picture? It was like a triangle, and a square, and then a triangle and a triangle. We got to see the nonsense of our lives like that square, like that doesn't fit. It's nonsense for 1 billion people in the world to be living on less than $2 a day. It's nonsense for me as a black man to be thanking God. I mean, it's good to thank God, but I'm thanking God that I made it past 25. It's nonsense for the divorce rate of Christians to be the same as people who are not Christians. It's nonsense, and Jesus has come to confront that nonsense. We choose to allow our lives to be shaped by the age to come, by that trailer, by that preview. See, my life is being shaped by a preview that I saw. I saw X-Men Origins preview. And I've been telling Yvette, like, hey, we still got 2 free tickets. We will not go to the movies until May 1st. I'm like, man, what is it going to be about? What's happening? I don't want to look at the synopsis. It's like, oh, I do not want to look at the spoiler ending. My life is being shaped by the preview. And our lives are supposed to be shaped by the preview of Jesus being raised from the dead. See, Jesus came to confront that nonsense, and life may not make sense to you right now. It may not make sense that your parents have died. It may not make sense that you can't seem to find that job. It may not make sense, but Jesus makes sense out of it. Life makes sense because of Jesus and what he did on the cross. In what way will you help to uplift those who are marginalized and forgotten? See, people, we forget that life doesn't make sense for somebody who can't eat. Life doesn't make sense for somebody who can't break this drug habit. I want you to turn to your neighbor and really think about it. In what way will you help to uplift those who are marginalized and forgotten? I want you to answer that question. You got a minute. Okay. There are things that followers of Christ have done in the name of Christ that have been nonsense. You talk about the Crusades or the Spanish Inquisition or the slave trade, all done in the name of Christ. And I want to say it for those of you who are not followers of Christ, we're ashamed of that. We don't want you to think that's what we're about. That's nonsense. I declare it to be nonsense. But there are things that we do as followers of Christ and we don't really think about it. You know, to come in to this room and look at the sky and lift your hands up and sing to this invisible person. To be single in this day and age, to be single and not sexually active seems like nonsense. To say that it's better to give than to receive, it sounds like nonsense. To believe that some thousands of years ago, a guy took a stick, put it over a sea, and the sea split in two, and 500,000 people walked across. It sounds like a fairy tale. It sounds like nonsense. To say that a boy, a teenager, took a rock and took down a 10-foot tall giant with a rock, it's not believable. It sounds like nonsense. But Jesus' resurrection, that trailer, that preview, it makes it all make sense to me. Because with that resurrection, I can believe that beyond what I see, the nonsense of this world. The other day, Wednesday night, rookie pitcher for the Angels pitched the game of his life. Game of his life. Hit and run accident. Took him out. I couldn't believe it. It's nonsense. Guy went up to a Christian retreat, pulled a gun out and started cutting people down. Nonsense. But Jesus' resurrection, beyond everything I see, and even because of what I see, because you here today, you make it come alive all over again. When I see you here, Filipino and Jamaican and Nigerian and African American and Mexican and Caucasian and Korean, and the list goes on and on and on. When I see that, I get hope for a brighter day. Not because we're so great, but because God and the power of his resurrection is alive right here to go beyond all the suffering, all the violence, all the hatred, and make sense out of the nonsense. Let's pray.